Bhishma continued speaking. Ram Parsuram smiled. O best of the Kurus, your behavior is proper, and I am pleased by it. If you had not come to me in this way, I would have cursed you. I cannot bless you to gain victory, since I myself want to vanquish you. Go and fight fairly, and with patience, O hero. I returned to my chariot and blew my conch, signaling the start of the battle. Both of us hurled every kind of weapon at each other. Each desiring victory, we fought furiously. Laughing, I released broad-headed shafts which chopped his bow into fragments again and again. Other arrows passed clean through his body and came out dripping blood, entering the earth like a hissing serpent. But by his spiritual power the sage maintained his life and fought back with fearsome energy. Covered with blood, Parshuram stood in his chariot like a mountain pouring forth lava. He responded with well-sharpened arrows that struck me like thunderbolts, pierced in my vital organs. I trembled and held onto my flagstaff for support. I summoned all my patience and, regaining my composure, released 100 deadly shafts at Ram. Struck by my arrows, Ram fell senseless to the floor of his chariot. I was immediately seized by remorse. What have I done? I have slain my own preceptor, virtuous Brahmin. I dropped my weapons and held my head in anguish. But Rama soon rose again, his charioteer having expertly removed the arrows and tended him. The sun set and we retired for the day, coming together in the evening as friends. The next day at sunrise we faced each other again on the battlefield. Rama shot blazing arrows with serpent-like mouths. I cut them down with my own arrows even as they sped through the air. The sage then resorted the celestial weapons which I countered with my own. During the violent exchange of weapons, I was suddenly caught on the chest by a dart that rendered me unconscious. My charioteer quickly removed me from the battle, and all of Rama's followers along with Amba sent up a cheer. After some time I regained consciousness and ordered my charioteer to take me back into battle. He urged on my horses, which seemed to dance as they bore us toward Rama. As soon as I saw him, I fired hundreds of straight flying arrows that screamed through the air, but Ram cut every one of them into pieces with his own arrows, and they fell uselessly to the ground. Then I sent hundreds more shafts at Rama. Parshurama, even as he was countering my last assault, he was caught off guard and knocked unconscious. As he fell from his chariot, a loud cry of alas went up from his followers. Seeing him drop to the earth like the sun fallen from the sky, the Kashi princes, along with his army, disciples, ran over and comforted him. They sprinkled his face with cool water and uttered benedictory hymns. Ram slowly rose and looked across at me, seated on my chariot. Enraged, he shouted, "Stay, Bhishma, you are already killed." Even before remounting his chariot, he shot an arrow which seemed like the rod of death. It hit my right side and sent me spinning as a real ram killed my horses. He simultaneously covered with me 1,000 more arrows without becoming confounded. I countered his attack with lightness of hand. As I struck down his arrows, my charioteer quickly fetched fresh horses for my chariot. A terrible exchange went on battle between us. Our celestial arrows met in mid-air and stayed there without falling. The sky became covered with a network of arrows that screened the sun. Parshuram shot thousands, then tens of thousands, then millions of arrows at me, which I duly countered with divine weapons. A great fire appeared in the sky, reducing the surrounding forest to ashes. As we fought on this way, the sun set and the battle subsided. We fought for many days, utilizing every celestial weapon and all forms of combat the Vedas describe. Parshuram released missiles, which can hardly be described. They assumed diverse forms and came from every direction. I was continuously whirling in my chariot, repelling his weapons and trying to counteract with my own. Both of us sought gaps of our opponent's defenses, and we both defeated defended ourselves closely. The battle raged through the day, and at night we rested, we both extremely exhausted from the fighting. On the 23rd day of the battle, Parsuram fought with redoubled strength. All of a sudden he fired a number of arrows which fell upon my horses and charioteer like a venomous serpent. They were all slain, and I was left standing on an immobile chariot as Ram shot arrows charged with death at me. As I fought off his shafts, Parsuram fired a powerful missile that came at me like a streak of lightning. It caught me on the chest and threw me backwards of the chariot. I fell on the ground a full 50 paces away, thinking me dead. Ram roared like a thunderbolt, and all his followers cheered. The Kurus who had accompanied me were overwhelmed with sorrow. As I lay there stupefied, I saw 8 brilliant Brahmins with celestial forms surrounding me. They raised me off the ground and gently supported me. Sprinkling my face with cool water, they said, "Do not be afraid, you will soon be successful." Revived and comforted, I stood up and saw my chariot yoked with fresh horses that my mother was tending. I touched her feet and worshipped the memory of my ancestors. Then I ascended the chariot and sent her away. I took the reins and continued fighting. I managed to catch him with an arrow of a great power that pierced him deeply. He dropped to his knees, his bow slipped from his grasps as he fell down senseless. I then saw many inauspicious omens. The sky rained blood, and meteors fell. The sun was eclipsed. High winds blew, and the earth trembled. But Rama was only stunned. In a short while he got back to his feet and continued the fight. Both of us threw our fiercest weapons at each other until the sun set, when we again retired for the night. That night, as I lay on my bed, my mangled body being tended by physicians, I thought that the battle would never end. I prayed to the gods that they would show me some way to overcome Parshurama. Then while I was sleeping, I again saw the 8 Brahmins who had visited me on the battlefield, comforting me again. They said, "Fear not, O son of Ganga, you are our own body, and we will give you all protection. You will surely vanquish Rama. Here is a weapon which will known to you in your previous birth, manufactured by Vishwakarma. It is called the Prashvapa, and no one on the earth knows it, not even Rama. Call it to mind it the battle tomorrow, and it will come to you. Parshuram will be thrown down by that weapon, but not killed. He cannot be slain, but he will be defeated and rendered unconscious by the Prashvapa. You will then be able to revive him with his Sambodhana weapon." The luminous Brahmins vanished, and I awoke with joy. The sun rose and the battle began again. Encouraged by the celestial Brahmins, I was enlivened and fought with renewed energy. After a furious exchange of weapons, I thought of the Prashvapa. The mantra suddenly appeared in my mind, but as they did, I heard a tumultuous uproar of heavenly voices. "O Bhishma, do not release the Prashvata missile." Disregarding them, I placed the weapon on my bow and aimed it at Rama. Suddenly Narada Rishi appeared before me. "The gods are stationed in the sky, and they forbid you to use this weapon. Ram is an ascetic, a Brahmin, and your preceptor. O son of Kuru, do not humiliate him by any means." As Narada spoke, I again saw the 8 Brahmins in the heavens. They smiled and said, "O best among the Bharatas, obey Narada. This will benefit all creatures." Parshuram, seeing the irresistible Prashvapa upon my bow, and not realizing that I had been forbidden to release it, shouted, "Alas, O Bhishma, I am vanquished." And he dropped his bow. His father Jamagdani, along with other heavenly rishis, then came to him and ordered him to stop fighting. They told him that I was one of the 8 Vasus, and that he could not slay me in battle. Jamagdani said, "Arjuna, the powerful son of Indra, will later cause Bhishma's death. Brahma has ordained this." So the battle ended. Severely wounded, I went before my preceptor and prostrated myself at his feet. After this he said to Amba, O princess, you have seen me exert myself to defeat Bhishma. Still I have not been able to overpower him. Therefore, you may go where you please. There is nothing more I can do. The maiden replied mournfully, Be it so, O Holy One. You have done your best on my behalf, and I am grateful. Still my heart burns with revenge. I will practice asceticism in this way. I will gain the power to personally bring about Bhishma's death. My preceptor was highly pleased with my prowess, and he blessed me that I would be without an equal to battle. After Amba had bowed before him, he left with all his followers. Amba then entered the forest. She went to the Yamuna and performed severe penances. I knew everything because when I returned to Hastinapur, I appointed men to watch over her constantly. They gave me regular reports for 1 year. She stood on the river bank without eating, emaciated and rough-skinned, bronzed by the sun. Her hair matted. She stood with hands upraised. After 1 year, she broke her fast by eating a single dry leaf. Then she remained waist deep in the water for another year, standing on 1 foot, fired with indignation. For 12 years she went on in this way. Neither her relatives nor anyone else could convince her to desist. Then she left the Yamuna and wandered at will, visiting the sacred hermitages of many rishis. All the while she continued her austerities, bathing 3 times daily, meditating silently and fasting. Her appearance changed from gentle to fierce, and she began to glow like ascetic power. One day as she was bathing in the Ganges, my mother said, Why do you perform such terrible penance, O maiden? Amba replied, I desire to destroy Bhishma, who is so powerful that not even Parshuram could defeat him. Thus I am set upon achieving unseparable power by my austerities. My ocean going mother became angry upon hearing her words. O lady, you act crookedly. You will not be able to attain your object because you are so weak, O daughter of Kashi. If you hold to your determination, I will curse you to become a terrible river in which water flows in you only during the rainy season. May you be full of crocodiles and other fierce aquatics. After saying this and pretending to smile, my mother vanished, leaving Amba in her waters. Still the princess did not desist. She performed even more severe austerities, abstaining from all food and water and controlling even her breathing. She wandered on, and when she arrived at Vatsa Bhumi, she fell down and began to run as a river. It is recorded that the river in Vatsa Bhumi runs only during the rainy season and is unapproachable due to its many crocodiles and dangerous fish. My merit of her austerities, however, only half of her body became a river, while the other half continued as before. She went with her asceticism, and after some time the rishis at Vatsa Bhumi approached her. They asked her what she desired and why she had explained. They said, You should seek Mahadeva's favor, for the deity can fulfill your desire. Amba supplicated Shiva, and he soon appeared before her, asking to know her desire. When she asked the god for the power to kill me, she replied, When she asked the god for the power to kill me, he replied, You will slay him. Amba then asked how it would be possible, since she was a woman. Shiva replied, My words can never be false. O blessed one, you will become a man and kill Bhishma in battle. You will remember all this in your next life. Born in Draupadi's line, you will become a Mahabharata, quick in the use of weapons and highly skilled and fierce in battle. This will come to pass soon. When Shiva vanished, Amba gathered wood and built herself a funeral pyre in the sight of all the rishis, setting fire to it. Her mind burning with wrath, she hurled herself into the pyre, crying for the destruction of Bhishma. So Sikhandi was Amba in his last life. He was born first as a woman, then attained his present form. Listen as I tell you how this occurred. Draupadi's queen was childless. For a long time together, she and her husband worshipped Shiva for a child. He prayed for a powerful son, but Shiva told him that his wife would give birth to a daughter who would later be transformed into a man. Although Draupadi beseeched the god for only a son, Shiva replied, "It shall be as I have said, for it has been decreed by destiny." Soon after Draupadi's queen conceived, in due course she gave birth to a daughter. Remembering Shiva's words, Draupadi announced that as a son had been born, he had all the rituals performed for a boy. No one saw the baby. Only a few trusted palace staff knew the truth. Draupadi raised his child with love, teaching her writing and all the arts. He also had her instructed in bowmanship, and other martial skills. When she became a youth, the queen asked Draupadi to find her as a suitable wife. Draupadi was anxious. The child had not been transformed into a son, where Shiva's words false. But his wife was fixed. Mahadeva's promise cannot fail. Shikhandi will become a male and therefore should marry a woman. Draupadi was convinced by the queen's faith and arranged for marriage. He chose the daughter of Hiranyavarman, king of the Dasaranakas. That king was unconquerable, and he was happy to give his daughter to Draupadi's son. No one suspected anything when the wedding ceremony was performed. The youthful Shikhandi, beautiful like a god, appeared dressed as a boy in a fine armor. She remembered the events of her previous life and Shiva's words. So even though she had been born a woman, she conducted herself as if she were a man. But it was only a matter of time before Hiranyavarma's daughter discovered the truth. She sent messengers to her father to inform him that Draupadi's son was actually a woman. Her father was furious, and he sent an emissary to Draupadi saying, "I am insulted by your wickedness. How could you have accepted my daughter in marriage for your own daughter? I am preparing now to come and punish you for this act. Soon I will slay you and all your ministers." Draupadi was caught like a thief. There was nothing he could say. He tried to convince Shikhandi's wife that her husband would in fact soon become a male, but all not to avail. The girl's father amassed a large army and marched on Kampilia. Draupadi was alarmed. He said to his wife, "Fools that we are, we have brought a great calamity into our heads. We are in danger. What should we do now? In your opinion?" Draupadi and his wife concluded that the only recourse was to worship the gods. Draupadi supplicated the deities while Hiranyavarma advanced in his country. Meanwhile, Shikhandi, in sorrow at this danger she felt she had brought on them, left the city, resolved to take her own life. She entered the forest in an area that was home to a powerful yaksha named Isthuna. Finding his abode a white palace, washed with lime, she entered it and sat down to practice austerities. A few days later, Isthuna returned and saw her sitting there, her body reduced from fasting kind of nature. He asked her why she was